Hey, are you holding on to guilt? Scared to feel joy again? I'm Patty Jackson, a certified grief and trauma supporter. I'm here to help you get rid of the guilt so you can have joy in your life again. I've walked the long road of grief, first losing my husband in 2018, and most recently, losing both of my parents. I know the valleys are deep, but you don't have to walk them alone. Together, we're leaning into our faith to find real, lasting hope. It's time to rebuild, rediscover, and reimagine. I'm so glad you're here. Earbuds in. Let's get back to loving and living your life as God intended. Hey y'all, welcome back to Grief Relief for Christian Women. I'm Patty. I'm a widow and your grief cheerleader. And I'm also someone who stood in the middle of the grocery store wondering, now why did I come here? Then I'd realize, oh yeah, I bought the milk already. Or finding my car keys in the refrigerator. How many have done that one? Honestly, that's just grief. Today, we're going to talk about something many widows experience, but very few people warn us about, mainly because they don't really know it exists. It's called widow brain, or you might have heard some people call it grief brain or brain fog. So if you've ever forgotten any appointment or lost your train of thought mid-sentence, maybe you read the same chapter of your book 5 times, or even walked into a room and completely forgotten why. Well, y'all, you're not losing your mind. Your brain is doing exactly what a grieving brain does. So let's talk a little bit about that today. First, I want to say our prayer. Father, thank you for meeting us right here where we are. You know every tear we've cried and every thought we've forgotten. You know how exhausting grief can be, not just emotionally, but mentally. Today, I pray that every widow listening would feel peace instead of panic. Remind us that our minds are not broken. Help us give ourselves grace while we heal and restore our strength one day at a time. In Jesus' name, amen. So what is widow brain? Well, I think widow brain is a condition that we widows lovingly describe as going crazy. I can't tell you how many times I say, man, I'm losing my mind. You just lost the love of your life. Sister, your brain has been through some trauma. So trauma changes how your brain functions. When someone you love dies, your brain isn't simply processing the sadness. It's trying to rebuild an entire world that suddenly changed overnight. Think about trying to remodel your entire house while living in it. Well, that's what your brain is doing. And no wonder we're exhausted. So why does this happen? Because when we experience significant loss, our brains shift into survival mode. Your nervous system becomes overloaded and your stress hormones increase. So that means your sleep is disrupted and then all your emotions are on high alert. Your brain has fewer resources left for everyday thinking. That means things like concentration or organization and decision making. If you have always been a problem solver, that's most likely going to feel different. Just learning something new can become incredibly difficult. So there's a book out there I want y'all to check out. It's called The Grieving Brain, The Surprising Science of How We Learn from Love and Loss. And it's by Dr. Mary Frances O'Connor. I'm not going to lie. It's a little more technical and a little more scientific maybe than a lot of the books out there. But what appealed to me is that it scientifically addressed how our brain functions, why we grieve the way that we do, and there were several things in there that really made sense to me. One of the things the book mentions is about grief and why we struggle with it so much is because our brain learns by patterns. So think about this for a minute. If you've been married to someone for a period of time, maybe it was only a few years, maybe it was 20, 25. And you know that pretty much without fail, every night you go to bed around a certain time and you have your spouse in that bed next to you. So grief is hard because we have all this information and all these patterns of things happening in our brain and of what we know should be happening. Typically, during any given day, you would know where your spouse is. You'd know that he was on this earth for sure. And if he was in the area, or if he was out of town, you'd know where he was and what state he was in. So with this new pattern being formed over the next few weeks and months, the harder it is to accept that this is your reality, because you have so many past memories of the old patterns or routines, whatever you want to call them, because now we're starting new patterns. Now that old pattern has been completely disrupted. And so when people say time heals all wounds or pain gets less with time, one of the reasons is because our brain starts making a new pattern, and you will get to a point in which your brain expects the new pattern and stops looking for the old pattern. I'll give you an example. I basically stopped going anywhere after Ralph died, like weekend trips or overnighters, because my old pattern was to call Ralph as soon as I arrived and let him know I was safe. Well, who was I going to call now since Ralph wasn't there? I couldn't get rid of the old pattern until I started going places again, and my brain eventually learned the new pattern. And I no longer needed to call or text Ralph to let him know I was there. The first few trips were pretty difficult, though, because not only did my brain have to learn a new pattern of not calling him when I arrived to where I was, my brain also had to form new patterns for the entire trip, such as not calling him at the end of every day that I was away, so to tell him how my day went and he could tell me how his went. But I also used to call him when I would leave where I was at and let him know what time I was leaving and what time I should be home. So I had to recreate or reform all these new patterns. Well, I've talked to a lot of widows that say that nighttime's really one of the worst times of the day that they struggle with this grief. It could be because there are fewer distractions. When you're at home and in bed at night, you're typically not working. So deciding what to eat for dinner feels overwhelming. And that doesn't mean that you've become less intelligent. It means you're grieving. I remember after Ralph died, I couldn't answer the simplest of questions. My girlfriends wanted to get together and they'd say, well, what do you want for dinner? I didn't know. They'd say, what day works best for you? And I had no idea. Any decision of any kind was impossible for me. Then after my parents passed away, it all happened again. So with theirs, there was all kind of legal documents and medical paperwork. We had financial decisions to go over, cleaning out the house. We had the will to take care of. They had a living trust, but they thought they had taken care of everything and it didn't work, so we had to get a new one. It was estate issues galore. Life just keeps demanding your brain to perform at full capacity at exactly the same time it has no capacity available. Well, here's another example of the brain fog coming during overwhelm for me. So after my parents died, we had to clean out their house, and there's 5 of us kids, so it took several weekends for us to all get together and get this accomplished. And my dad had this little safe in his office under his desk, but we couldn't find the key. After several days, I guess, we found that key and it opened the safe, and we were all so excited. So we guarded that key with our lives. We made sure we knew. I think we even hung it on a nail in the inside of a closet. So we were hiding it, but not hiding it from ourselves. Anyway, we got all of the house stuff taken care of, and we were selling the house, and we took the safe and the key to my house so I could store it in my garage because I'm the only one that had room. Lo and behold, when we went to get the key, we couldn't find it, and we couldn't open that dang safe again. I have no idea what happened between my parents' house and mine on that day, but it's 2 years now, and I still have not found that key. That's what I call brain overwhelm. At that very moment, trying to clean out the house, trying to store everything here at mine, trying to keep this or get rid of that, my brain was in overwhelm. It just had reached its capacity, and there's nothing I could do. And so I have no idea what I did with that key. Here's what usually happens. Say you forget something. Then you panic about it. Then you think, oh my gosh, I'm getting dementia, or I'm losing my mind, or I'll never be normal again. Well, all this fear creates more stress, and more stress creates more brain fog. It becomes this vicious cycle. I'm just telling y'all, don't worry. Most grief brain improves with time. Mine did anyway. Healing doesn't happen overnight, but our brains are remarkably resilient. You can think of it as a dozen computer programs running in the background, even as you're answering an email. I mean, I've always been a multitasker and it worked before, but part of your brain is thinking, I miss him. I wish he were here. I wonder what life would have been like with him here. What happens next? Those background processes consume mental energy, and eventually your brain becomes overloaded. No wonder you can't remember where you left your glasses, which, by the way, are probably on top of your head. Another thing nobody warned me about was how exhausting decisions became. Decision fatigue is real. There are questions that I had like, should I sell the house? Should I remodel the house? Or should I move? I didn't know what to do when it came to parting with his items, such as should I get rid of this t-shirt or that t-shirt? Oh, good Lord. I have a story about his work boots. I kept his work boots through 4 moves. And I don't know why I was keeping them, except that basically defined him. He always wore those boots. And I just couldn't see getting rid of them. So I was moving to the 5th time, and I decided, you don't need these boots. You're not doing anything with these boots. Just get rid of these boots. So I loaded them up with a bunch of other things that I was parting with and drove to Salvation Army. I waited in the line, and they took the box out of my car, and I drove off. Well, I didn't get out of the driveway when it hit me, and I was crying. I wish I wouldn't have got rid of the boots. So I went back to where they took the box from that had the boots in them and asked if I could get them back. And they said, no, sorry. And they've already gone into the store, which whether they had been already put in the store or not, I don't know. So I parked and went in the store and I'd have to buy the boots back if I wanted them. Well, I didn't see them at the moment, so I wasn't sure where to go get them from. And I decided I didn't need the boots. I had already made the decision to part with the boots, so I stuck with that decision. But I left there with tears nonetheless. Every single decision carries an emotion. So give yourself permission to postpone unnecessary decisions when possible, because the emotional decisions are hard enough. Everything doesn't have to be solved today. All right, so as I always do, I give you a few pointers, and I'm going to give you a few of the things that helped me through the widow brain days. Okay, maybe the widow brain months, or even years, some people might think. So write everything down. Don't assume you'll remember it. Sticky notes became my best friend, and now my latest habit is I send myself an email when I have that thought so that I won't forget it. Then when I sit at my desk again and check my email, there's the reminder. Some days there are 10, some days there's none, but that's the easiest way for me because I'm going to be at the desk every day. If not every day, then every other day. And therefore I can save that email or print it out, whatever works best for you. There's phone reminders and voice memos. There's lists. If you're like me, you have lists on top of your sticky notes and sticky notes on top of your list. Use every tool you can. That's wisdom, y'all, not weakness. And another thing, just slow down. I've learned that grief and rushing just don't mix well. I learned late in life, but finally it clicked. If I leave a little earlier and give myself a little extra time, then life is much calmer. Another thing, don't make all the decisions. You don't need to make every decision today. And then there's that meal planning. You can plan your meals, but make them simple. That way, every single night, you're not freaking out about what to do for dinner. And it's just me here, so I just kind of do it on a whim. But my meals are pretty simple. And I'm not ever going to volunteer to be the one to make the Thanksgiving meals or Christmas meals. That's just not me. You can do things like lay clothes out the night before you have plans and create new routines. Anything you can do with creating a routine or a pattern. Fewer decisions your brain has to make, the more energy it has for healing. Don't forget sleep matters. Grief often takes away your sleep. In fact, it took away my sleep and then I got my sleep back and then menopause kicked in and my sleep went away again. So I am learning that sleep is very important, and I'm sure you already know that. But if you don't have enough sleep, that brain fog is just that much worse. So don't be afraid to talk to a doctor if you haven't figured out how to sleep or, get that working again. Rest is part of healing and it's part of nourishing your body. Don't forget to drink your water. And I'm learning this because I'm trying to work out more, eat more protein. Move your body, even if it's just a short walk around the block, because your brain needs fuel. Ask for help. So I know this one can be hard, especially because we've always been independent, or I have anyway, but allowing others to help is not failure. It's community, and we all need one another. I know I need my friends, and I need my family. And this community that we have in mygriefrelief.com, it's awesome because you can always get an answer to a question or a worry that you have that is laying heavy on your brain. Just talk about it, get it out, and there's usually a perfect solution or a perfect suggestion in the community. God designed us that way to carry on one another's burdens. Isaiah 26:3 says, God gives perfect peace. Sometimes peace comes before clarity. I think God tries to steady our hearts before he clears our minds. Another verse is Proverbs 3:5-6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. There were times when I couldn't trust my own understanding, but I always knew I could trust God's. That kind of made the difference in me getting through a panic moment and not. So a word to family and friends. If someone you love is grieving, please be patient. Don't assume they're careless. I think my friends are unique and they know when to joke about it and when not to. And so keep that in mind. Also, some are going to bounce back quicker than others. I'm just here to tell you, and I know for a fact, grief changes the brain. Widow brain is a real thing, and don't think you're going crazy. You will get through it. And if you're listening and you're a friend or a family member of someone going through grief, help them out. Offer reminders. You can write down things for them, or you could send them emails like I do to remind them. You could go with them to appointments. Just give them grace. Lots and lots of grace. So going forward this week, I want your challenge to be, when you forget something, don't criticize yourself. Instead say, my brain is healing, or I'm grieving, or I'm giving myself grace. Just think about it before you criticize yourself. You need to replace that shame with compassion. You need all the compassion you can get from yourself right now, mainly, and also from your friends and family. God gives you compassion, so you give compassion to yourself. Y'all, if Widow Brain has made you wonder whether you're falling apart or you're losing your mind, I hope today reminded you that you're not. You are just healing and you are grieving. One day you'll notice you remembered something without writing it down. And one day you'll realize you laughed through an entire conversation. One day you'll make a decision without feeling overwhelmed about it. So healing happens in tiny little moments, not in huge giant leaps. Every one of those moments is evidence that God is faithfully carrying you forward. You may not feel stronger today, but you're stronger than you think. Believe me, I know it. All right, y'all. That's it for episode number 19 of Grief Relief for Christian Women. I would love for you to join the Grief Relief community where we can talk about topics like this and more. We're going to have live coaching and Q&A calls. We're going to have small group coaching courses, resources, checklists, all kind of tools and things that you need in an environment where you can connect with other like-minded and faith-based widows. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode encouraged you, please share it with another widow or a friend who's walking through grief. Sometimes simply hearing, you're not crazy, you're just grieving, can lift such a heavy burden. If you'd like more encouragement, grief resources, and a community of women who know what you're going through, visit us at mygriefrelief.com. Until next time, remember this, you don't have to have it all together to keep moving forward. God is walking with you one faithful step at a time. I'll see you next week right here on Grief Relief for Christian Women. Bye. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope something in this episode gave you a little peace, a little hope, or maybe even a smile. If it did, would you do me a quick favor? Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. It could help more widows find the courage to take their next step. Until next time, remember, you're not alone and joy is still possible.